Okay. Spain, Portugal.
We went to Princess.
It's
Food was good. Food was
the third time we've done it. Castle last
The
2 years.
one we just went on with the drink.
Getting out of the country
Yeah.
again.
5:59.
6 o'clock.
Okay. Well, it's 6 o'clock and we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I want to welcome everybody to the January 11th, 2022 Sequasa Board of Directors meeting. Hope everyone had a great holiday season. And then we have a little announcement here. We have a member change to our board. I want to thank Primo Commissioner Ed Mills for his service to Sequasa. And also I want to welcome Primo Commissioner Robert Way to the board, and we all look forward to working with you, Robert. Thank you. This is our first in-person meeting in a very long time, and the board voted to go back to this format in December before the COVID rate spiked. We will continue to monitor the situation along with the health department guidelines and make changes as needed. And with that, let's go to a roll call vote. A roll call. Mr. Schroyer,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gooch,
present.
Ms. Kaczynski,
Present.
Ms. Jordan,
Present.
Mr. Karen,
Present.
Mr. McKellar,
Present.
Mr. McLam,
Present.
Mr. Way.
Present.
Present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on. Mr. McLam, can you deliver an invocation tonight?
Yes, sir. Let us pray. Lord, be with us as we make the best decisions for all Sequasa customers in tonight's meeting. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Let us stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there any adjustments to the minutes? I mean, not the minutes, but adjustments to the agenda? If not, for motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Kaczynski. Second by Commissioner McLam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Now, review and approval of minutes from the December 14th, 2021 meeting. I trust everyone has had time to look these over. Is there any discussion?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes for December 14th, 2021 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Council Member Jordan and a second by Council Member McKellar. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion is carried. Do we have any public comments for tonight? Any emails or?
Mr. Chair, no, I did not receive any public comment requests this evening via email or I've created actually some public comment cards now in the back of the room here. So if you do have those in the future, they can actually fill out a card, bring it up to me so we have a record, and then I will bring those up to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Being there's no public comments, we'll go on to board discussion items. And our board discussion item tonight is well, our topic is prior to each month's regularly scheduled board meeting, the South Craven Water and Sewer Authority board members are surveyed to see if they have any discussion topics for the upcoming meeting. Following are the responses received for discussion items for this month's board meeting. We want to do a follow-up discussion on the recent state award of 35 million for infrastructure repairs and replacements. And following the outcome of the board's discussion on the use of the 35 million grant from the state, a motion by the board to use the 35 million state grant toward the I-85 sewer reconstruction project will allow SCWASA staff to move forward with the required state application to receive the money. Furthermore, with this action, SCWASA staff will be able to pursue the additional grants that we're seeking to fund the outstanding balance of 15 million of the project. I know at the December meeting, Mark, you went over some details of how this money was supposed to be spent.
Yes, sir.
Yes, would you mind refreshing everyone's memory with that, please?
Okay, the $35 million that was allocated to SCWASA, it comes out of the ARPA funds dedicated to the state. That money must be used on infrastructure improvement projects. It has to be used on water and sewer, lines, water plants, any infrastructure that serves our service area. That money has to be used for that purpose. Can't be used for salaries. It can't be used for any other type of use. It has to be used for infrastructure projects. So our intention was to use that 35 million towards the $50 million I-85 sewer construction project. And during my project updates, I was planning to give a few more updates on where we're at with that. So I can jump into that now, or if you want to wait until we have slides to look at, however you want to.
Since this is a discussion item, Mr. Shroyer.
Yes, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. But the reason to put this back on the agenda, if you will, from the December agenda is we spent a lot of time on this discussion. A lot of thank yous went out for this, and Mark gave us a great update on everything regarding this project. One thing that I didn't get from the board was a motion. And so I wanted to bring it back to our board meeting this evening, even though there was consensus to move in this direction. I just wanted to have a formal motion from the board, just so that we had on the record that this is what we're going to do with the state money as far as the grant focusing on this project, knowing that we're also pursuing other grant opportunities from the US RDA for the balance of this project at the same time. So it's more or less just a formality. So I thought it was a good idea to get back in front of the board, Mr. Chair, and then Mark will provide us with an additional update during his presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does any board members have any questions, comments? Anyone have anything to say? If not, then we'll entertain a motion to direct this money to the I-85 project.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by McLam, second by Jordan. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. So now we get down to project updates. All right. Thank you, Mark.
It's good to see everybody in person tonight.
Yeah.
We all look better in person versus. Okay, so the first presentation is the I-85 sanitary sewer project and other project category update. So this is where we'll jump right into that I-85. So next slide, please. So just a project status in summary. In November, the alternatives analysis was presented by our sub-consultant, CDM Smith, to the board, where we presented the 5 different alternatives. As you can see here, the picture of this, the image is on the screen now. That is the selected alternative 5, which consists of improvements to the northern and southern gravity interceptor, and rebuilding the Joe Pede and East Milton lift stations, building a lift station this called the I-85 lift station, and associated force mains. So that was presented in November, and then, like we talked about just a few minutes ago, we discussed the funding options at the December meeting. So we'll go to the next slide. So the project status and with the schedule, in December, we did present to you some information. In December and January, we are coordinating with DEQ regarding the funding. I know at the last meeting, I presented that I was planning to get the application submitted to DEQ, or Division of Water Infrastructure, before Christmas and hopefully presenting the proposal of the engineering design proposal from CDM at this meeting. However, the federal government released guidelines, the ARPA funding in early January. We are coordinating with our attorney right now to make sure that the CDM Smith proposal meets those guidelines. We're trying to make sure all the steps in the scope, this is a very detailed scope. There's a lot of tasks here. We're trying to make sure everything, including the easement acquisition portion of the project, making sure that everything meets those ARPA guidelines. The last thing we want to do is get into this and find out that we're breaking a rule and not be able to spend the 35 million on this project. So we decided it was worth a little bit more effort and coordination on our end to make sure that we're checking all the boxes, doing this correctly, and make sure that the money will be allocated to us and there won't be any problems along the way. Our plan right now is within the next couple of weeks to get that submitted to Division of Water Infrastructure. I had a meeting yesterday with them. They think that it's about a 2-week turnaround time for them to approve the CDM Smith proposal and also the application that will allow us to dedicate the 35 million to the project. So if we get that in the next week and a half as planned, we should be able to present that CDM Smith proposal to you for approval in February at the February board meeting, and then be able to begin immediately on site surveying and underground utility location and the design of the project. So that's where we're at with the funding. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that at this point.
Chairman,
Yes.
you're saying that this funding is being under ARP guidelines, but this money came from the state of North Carolina, not the federal government.
So it was ARPA money from the federal government that was given to the states to award.
Okay.
So, and we also have, as was mentioned, it looks like we're going to go after the additional $15 million from the USDA. So there is what they consider commingling of funds. There's the state fund source, and then there's the USDA funds. There's there are regulations on you have to follow some rules with the federal money, some rules with the state money, and figuring out how those requirements mesh. So I'm probably getting on their nerves talking to them with the Division of Water Infrastructure about this, but we're just trying to make sure that we're following the procedures. This is one of the larger projects that they have on the books right now with this ARPA money in North Carolina. So we're just trying to make sure we're doing it right.
So the ARPA rules just came out, I think the final rule came out, I think it was last Thursday, and so we're trying to digest that, and also this will be fully subject to the uniform guidance requirements. And if we go through the easement acquisition, use federal funds for that, there's a whole nother federal law that applies. So there are numerous things that we have to think through on this and try to do it strategically in the most efficient way and most cost effective way.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Next slide. So just a overall project schedule estimate, as we mentioned before, the surveying, design, and permitting portion of the project is anticipated to take 12 to 18 months, with the gravity intercept portions taking to 12 months, but then the portions that the force main portion and the bore under I-85, the permitting for that would probably take 18 months. So we're looking at 12 to 18 months for the design and permitting. And then construction, we plan to break it up into 2 or more construction packages. Looks like one construction package may be funded from the USDA money, where the second construction package will be funded with the 35 million. And it's just going to be easier to break it up that way versus trying to mix that money. It just gets more complicated. And then we expect the construction to take 18 to 24 months. All right, I guess before we talk about the digester project, does anyone have any other questions on the I-85? So the digester project, you guys have seen this picture many, many times. The project scope is to replace the diffuser laterals and headers with heat resistant materials, stainless steel and CPVC. Project schedule update. I'm happy to say that tank 3 and tank 4 construction has been complete, and both are currently in operation. We're using those 2 digesters at the plant right now.
Oh, wow.
a part of the project with the contingency money that was approved, we did approve one change order, and that was to replace 4 valves that were not operating correctly on the air line serving those digesters. So we replaced those 4 valves as well. And I've got pictures of those in the upcoming slide. The last bit that we have to finish up is we just have temperature and pressure gauges that have to be installed. But by the next board meeting, I will say this is 100% done. Wearing material issue, but this one is going well. So next slide. So these are pictures from digester tank 3. This shows the before, so you can see the warped piping, the PVC pipe along the perimeter. You can see what kind of shape it's in. Next slide. So this is digester tank number 3 under construction. So you can see the new pipe, stainless steel pipe coming down the side along the edge of the concrete basin, and then the new aerators, CPVC material on the bottom. Next slide. So these are pictures of the digester tank number 4 under construction with all the new materials. It looks just like number 3, but much better than it did to start with. So next slide. So these are the 4 valves. You can see the bright red valves against the old rusted looking pipe. Those are the 4 valves that were installed. These are the airlines that serve all 4 digester tanks. So I think 2 were not operable at all, and 2 of the others would not shut all the way. So we decided it was a good time to go ahead and replace those. So next slide. So I guess before going to the hydraulic water model, I don't know if anyone has any questions on the digester. So for the hydraulic water model, the project scope for this is to create a hydraulic model for the Saguaso water distribution system. The service area being targeted for this model is the area east of I-85, beginning at the Lake Road booster pump and encompassing all of City of Creedmoor. So the focus on this model is to look at the water quality issues in Creedmoor. The results will aid us in developing projects to fixing identified water quality issues and any potential improvements we can do to the booster pump for chemical treatment to help boost water quality in Creedmoor. Future phases, we would expand this model to the rest of the service area. So next slide. So project schedule, September, we received board approval for the project. October through December, we had data acquisition where we searched, found as-built drawings. We got water demand data, 12 months of service data, or 12 months of water usage data for the Creedmoor service area. Use that to start building the model. November through January, the model has been developed, and we're currently trying to identify the fire hydrants where we need to flow test. We're actually ready to do that right now. We just need some warm weather at this point. We don't want to go out and start flow testing when it's going to be freezing. That would not be a good idea. It'd be not safe. So if we get some warm weather later in January, we hopefully can begin some of the flow testing. February and March, we look to refine the model. April, complete the model, and then May and June, run through multiple scenarios, and then hopefully in June or before, present the final report to the board. Next slide.
Mark, just a comment. Commissioner Way and I were talking recently about the water model in the city of Creedmoor, and with his association with the fire department, he offered that he has some records for some hydrant flow data as well.
Okay.
So I would ask that you reach out to him, and once you've identified those hydrants, and see what kind of historical data they have that might help us as well with the model, in addition to any additional flowing that you do. Okay.
Any hydrant data that you have, we could input it into the model.
Copies, but we have a record at the station.
I will be in touch.
Okay.
I'd like to have it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So the AIA grant application, there's no change on this from the last meeting, but we submitted a grant application in September for the $150,000 grant for asset inventory assessment for the water distribution system. That went in by the September 30th deadline, and we expect grants to be awarded in February. We expect potentially this month to hear, but likely sometime in February to hear whether we get that money. And once that money is assuming we get that grant, that money would be used to do an inventory assessment and a condition assessment on the water distribution system. An AIA grant was obtained back in 2018 or 2019, and a condition assessment was done to the sewer lines, but nothing has ever been done to the water. So we really need to do that to understand the condition of all of our water distribution system. So, all right. Okay, this is a project that was presented at the last board meeting. This is the remote site monitoring system upgrade. So Saguasa currently operates and maintains a lot of remote sites. This includes 47 sanitary sewer lift stations, 5 water pump stations, and 7 water towers. Currently, those sites are monitored from 2 different service providers. One of those service providers, we have 31 sites that are monitored by that provider that are using 2G and 3G hardware, which are about to be taken offline. So at that point, they would be obsolete. So at that point, we would not get any notification on any high-level alarms, any pump failures, things like that. So this project will upgrade all the sites to one single service provider, and will use LTE technology. So any obsolete hardware should not be an issue. And the service will allow Saguasa staff to have real-time alarm and monitoring data on their computers and cell phones. So we'll be able to see the condition of all of our lift stations at any time. So next slide. So the schedule for this, October, November, Saguasa issued a request for proposals and held a bid opening. December, we presented this to the board and received approval to award the contract to Data Command, who was the low bidder. Last week, January 4th and 5th, Data Command had staff on site, and we visited 31 sites, the lift stations that were about to be obsolete. So we could just confirm what hardware, what size boxes, the location, all the alarms needed to be. We're looking at January 18th, beginning installation of the alarm hardware at the 31 sites. And all of those sites will be upgraded by January 31st. And then in February, once those sites are complete, the remaining sites from that list will be upgraded by the end of the month. All right, well, that's the other project category. So any questions there?
Anyone have any questions, comments? Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm sorry. Missed somebody?
No, just saying, thank you, great update.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're good sometimes.
Okay, this is the update for the water treatment plant project. I'm happy to say that we don't have too many more of these updates to give. So next slide. So project summary, the contract price about $13.5 million with the notice to proceed issued May 15th of 2020. Contract time, the original contract time was 580 days with the scheduled substantial completion date being December 16th. Due to 17 documented weather day delays since May of 2020, substantial completion was rescheduled to December 31st of 2021. Based on the December pay app, they're 100% complete with the substantial completion. The final completion date was also pushed back 17 days, which pushes that date to February 28th. The current scheduled date for completion provided by the contractor is, I believe, February 25th. And work completed to date from that pay app is 91.26%. They're actually higher than that. That's just all they bill for at this point. Next slide. So this is just an overview of the project. All the yellow areas are portions being upgraded. Basically, everything is under construction or complete or about to, or soon to be complete. So next slide. So a summary of different components that are being upgraded or just the status of those. The general and site conditions, site lighting has been completed. We still have to install landscaping and permanent fencing. Plan to do that all in January. And then once everything else is complete in February, we'll put about the last bit of site work is to put the final lift of asphalt down. For the dewatering facility, looking at next week, final training and operation of belt press, conveyor system, and polymer system. At that point, it will be started up and turned over to us. Gravity thickener is complete. The sludge storage tank is complete with the exception of a concrete coating that needs to be put on the exterior of that in January. Next slide. Chemical feed facility, it is basically complete and we are scheduled for the startup for that next week with the training and turning that over to us. Bulk storage tanks, complete with the scheduled startup being January 13th. Sedimentation basins, basin 5 is complete, basin 4 is in progress, and basins 1, 2, and 3 are all scheduled to be complete by February 21st. And that's the last bit that's going to have to be, that's the last thing that will be completed. And the SCADA improvements are underway right now. Servers are installed and it is almost complete. Next slide. So we did have one issue along the way. We had smooth sailing for most of this. But as the picture you see here is one of our flash mixers that serves the flocculation basin. The picture on the right that is open, that is supposed to be an impeller, a shaft and blades that are used to mix the sediment that's in the basin underneath. Well, that shaft sheared off. This has nothing to do with the project, but that sheared off and fell down into the flocculation basin. We need to get access to this basin to retrieve that shaft and that blade. We also need access to it to be able to repair this. So we are working with our consultant right now on a solution. We talked about cutting a hatch, putting a grate in and having a hatch opening that you could access this. Unfortunately, the concrete is only 6 inches thick. I won't get into the structural engineering of that, but it needs additional I-beam support to hold that up. So we're looking at potentially installing I-beams and to support that floor to be able to cut the hatch in to be able to access the basin and retrieve the impeller blades. So we've asked for a change order from the contractor to solve this problem for us. And while we're doing that, that's going to also aid in the installation of a flow meter that needs to get installed. But we're looking at about a 10 to 12 week lead time for those I-beams. So that is one issue that we're trying to work through right now, which could impact the schedule. I think everything else on the project will be complete by the February date, as we mentioned, but this one item here could extend out. It's part of the project, but it's kind of its own issue. But while the contractor's on site, we'd like to have them resolve this. So wanted to bring that to your attention tonight.
How deep is that impeller?
I believe it's about a 12-foot. It's about 12-foot deep basin here, but the impeller blades are a lot bigger than that opening. So even if we could reach down in there and pull it up, we could not get it out. So we have to access that. The folks that designed that back in the 1940s did not think about having man access to that. So
Mark, we have additional flash mixers in that room, correct?
yes, we do. They're 4 mixers, but we don't want to operate from now on with one broken down mixer and with the impeller down in the basin. So
Right. So we've looked for the best way to attack this problem and fix this one mixer, but with the additional mixers we have in there, realizing they might be the same vintage and we have future problems. So designing this access way underneath to that basin will help us in the future as far as just maintaining those. So we don't know the magnitude of cost at this point in terms of this repair, and that's what Mark's working on presently. So we'll get that to the board as soon as we have that information. I would hope that we'd have this by the next board meeting at the latest, Mark.
I do expect to be presenting a change order for this fix at the next board meeting.
Okay.
So you said this is part of the project, but well, part of the project was to replace these?
Well, no, the flash mixer is not part of the project, but while the contractor is here, we like to go in and make these repairs as part of the project.
So it's just an addition.
Right. Addition.
It's old.
Yes, it is. So next we'll go through some photographs from the site. We were taken on site on Friday last week. These were bulk storage tanks with all the control panels installed. I don't know that they were all installed at the last meeting. So that's about the only difference here. Next slide. Chemical feed building. These are just some of the pictures from inside the feed building. The main difference here is all the doors have been installed. That was one of the last things that had to be done after the last meeting, but the building is basically complete. Next slide. So this is the storage tank, equipment control panel on top, and just the bare concrete on the picture on the left. And as I said, about the last thing to do here is just put a coating on that Next slide. The watering building, these are pictures of some of the interior piping and belt press, and then a photograph from the exterior with got a transfer truck there that we've been testing the belt press and running sludge and catching it in the trailer there. Next slide. Gravity thickener complete and in operation. Next slide. Even sludge pump station. I don't know that it's really much different than last meeting, but these are steps going down into it and then piping and pumps at the bottom. Next slide. Sedimentation basins. This is a picture of tank 4 being drained. I was not able to get a picture of the concrete work and new drains being installed in 5. It was filled back up before I was able to get a picture, but this is tank 4 where it's been drained and cleaned. Next slide. So next is just a video from the top of the storage tank. So you can see the site is graded. We've got seed down and the grass is actually coming up pretty nicely. Dewatering building. So the new control panels for the storage tank. Sedimentation basins in progress. So. And that concludes the update. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
In the end of the video, is that where the new bulk water sale point is going to be?
Yes.
Figured out, was that
Yes, right in front of the,
between the new, where the truck was parked in the
well,
building?
I take that back. I think the bulk water sales, I need to confirm that. I know that they're going to load the sludge trucks there. I'm not sure.
It looked like an overhanging hose. That's why I was asking. Because I know there was a question as to it had to be moved temporarily during construction.
I think that it is, but I want to confirm that. I want to confirm that.
Appreciate it.
Sir.
Any other questions? Well, thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Mark.
Thank you for the update. And comments from a executive director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, thank you for your presentation this evening. And I just want to remark that the water treatment plant project upgrade, quite a large project for us. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. This is kind of a benchmark project for us and for Saguasa, especially as the way as it was managed. Excellent design, excellent management. We stayed on track the whole time. We've provided updates to the board so that you could see our progress, and it's just clicked along very well on schedule. So very few hiccups. So in the future, this will be kind of our benchmark project that you'll want to use as we're working on other projects. So it's been a good job for us. Thank you, Mark, for working on this for us. That's all I have for this evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Comments from our attorney. Mr. Wren, you got anything?
Comments tonight? Thank you.
Okay, nothing for closed session.
I don't think we have anything to discuss.
Yes, we do have.
Oh, we do.
Surprise.
So we do have,
Yes.
well, okay. Well, that concludes the business portion of our meeting. And since there's some items for closed session, entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember McKellar, second by Councilmember Jordan. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye.
It's just for attorney-client.
Oh, the purpose of this is this attorney-client or?
Yes.
Okay, so this is for purposes for attorney-client privilege. Okay. All right. And ayes have it. Any opposed? We'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll go into closed session. Thank you.
In session, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we're ready.
Yes.
Well, then comments from our board members? Mr. McKellar, you got any comments or?
No, not tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just I'm learning the new ways here and look forward to the journey and hopefully help add some insight to things from my experience of with the fire service and working with our hydrants and the water systems that we deal with, and also looking to, just stay on track with our mission to provide excellent service to our citizens and clean drinking water. And I look forward to working with everybody and continuing on the mission that Commissioner Mims has done.
Thank you. Mr. McLam,
No comment.
no comments. Mr. Karen.
I would like to welcome Robert to his successfully making it through his first meeting. He's already proved himself to be an asset to this board. As we talked about the hydraulic modeling for Creedmoor, having insight, like, as you mentioned, to the flow dynamics and the hydrants and whatnot. It's nice to have somebody who's turned a wrench on the board with us. So I also want to point out the newly launched webpage around the strategic plan that Scott had put on there. That was a long process. I know that was one of the things that we had kind of talked about when you came on board, that in your vision for Sigwasa. And it's nice to see these goals come off. It's like the water treatment plant coming to fruition. That's amazing stuff. I'm excited to see the color on that boat press. So good things happening at Sigwasa this year. So that's all I have this evening. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Jordan, any comments?
Just want to welcome Mr. Way to the board and look forward to working with you. And Happy New Year, everyone. Let's get started for what's to come in 2022.
Thank you. Ms. Kaczynski.
I want to thank our engineer, Mark, for his patience. Took me back out to the digester tanks and showed me how bad it was and the one that's been repaired and how good it was working. I got to see all those valves. And you could absolutely tell which ones were new by the colors, how bright the color was. Drove me, said, "You want to see the water plant?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we went over and showed me the water plant. They were doing the sedimentation tanks at that time. And I had no idea the sedimentation tanks were as deep as they were. It was quite interesting. And I'm looking forward to Mark scheduling a tour for Commissioner Way so he can, there's nothing like being at the facility, seeing the facility to understand what we talk about here. And welcome, Robert.
Thank you. And thank everyone, especially Scott and staff, for all you do. Mark, look forward to your presentations. It shows that you're a busy man nowadays, and that shows we have a lot of projects going. And I'm looking forward to 2022 completion. You've completed some projects. We got some others that will be completed this year. Some others will be starting on. And it looks like we're headed in a real good direction now. And just look forward to this coming year and all the years to come after that, whether I'm here or not. Thank you all. And if there's no other business to come before us tonight, then motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. We're officially adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.